Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 546, the code, follow the Mishnah. We said that Nesiat Nashim B'Moed, one may not marry on the intermediate days of the festival, regardless of what's the story, if it's a first time, if it's a widow, levirate married, it's also not be performed on the intermediary days of festival. But the remarried is different story. One permitted to remarry a woman whom he had previously married and divorced. So the Bet Yosef said it's, some are stringent, not permit preparing a wedding feast, etc. So with that said, we are very bottom of page 5b, Meitivei. כל אלו שאמרו אסורים לישא במועד. So we go first, you know what, let's go just few lines backward. רבי יצחק אולה אמר מפני התואר, רבי יצחק נפחא אמר מפני ביטול פריאה ורבייה. So there's a few different school of thought. What's the reason? Why said that neglect one is the exertion, which is extra effort during the festival, and one is the neglection of the mitzvah, be fruitful and multiply. So Tosfot said, elaborate, and he said, the Gemara said in Tractate Moed, page 8, that when it's come to Brit Milah, you don't say in the Brit Simcha b'mono, that celebration of the Brit. Why is that? So he said the baby is crying, right? The mother is not so happy, etc. The relatives. So it's not. But then he goes further and he said, he asked, how about Pidyon Haben, the 30 days after the baby born, we have a special Seudah. And he said that the lo chashiv simcha b'simcha kim sudat nesuin bilvad. So Ritva elaborate on that, and also, as we said, the Beit Yosef speaks that we have to differentiate between grusham and nisuin and not. So there is the idea that engagement and betrothal are permitted on the intermediary days of festival, as long as one does not prepare a feast to celebrate the occasion. So as long as it's not involved with a big to-do. But let me share with you the code in Taf Kuf Mem Vav, the Mechaber. So they said, one may not take a wife on Chol HaMoed, intermediary days, neither virgin nor widows, and one may not perform Yibum, like levirate marriage. So the Mishnah Brura add, let's Chaim add, and he said, the reason is that one may not mingle one rejoicing with another rejoicing. Even the marriage, the nisuin alone, without holding a feast, is also forbidden. The Achronim write that the rule that one may not mingle one rejoicing with another rejoicing only applies where both rejoicings are for one person. However, it is permitted for two people to mingle the rejoicings. Therefore, one is permitted to make a chuppah for an orphan, groom, or bride, or for a poor person, and accompany it with the rejoicing for the marriage of one of his own children on the same day. On the other hand, it is practiced to be careful not to make the marriage of two brothers, two sisters, or a brother and a sister on the same day. And he said, however, as far as the engagement, how do you say, espousal? So he said, on the other hand, espousal is permitted. Even kiddushin may be performed, as the mere performance of ordinary espousal and unaccompanied by a feast is not regarded as a rejoicing with respect to this ruling. And more on that, I highly recommend it between all the Mefarshim, Taf Kuf Mem Vav 546. page 9, מותרים לישא ערב הרגל. So they is permitted to marry on the due of the pilgrim festival. So Rashi tells us, I'm using my book today relatively many times, we have klomar. Rashi said, klomar mutar lechatchila ve'af al gav deshiratim shel suda yu baregel. So I saw in a book called Avnei Shaish, he explains that because he does that at the eve of the festival, and we have the Simchat Nisuim, it's preceding to the celebration of the pilgrim. So the idea is lechatchila, that we prefer to do it. You can postpone Simchat HaRegel because of the marriage, and that's the cause of that. That's the reason for that. And that's the reason why we said kasha lechulu. Kasha lechulu, it's difficult to all opinions, because when you have the wedding celebration, so what happened is that usually it extends for the Sheva Brachot, for the 7 days period. And the majority of the celebration will coincide with the festival. So the Gemara said, Lo kashya leman de amar mishum simcha. So the one who said that the issue is you have mixing with two rejoicing. What does that mean for those who just came in, not so familiar? It's the idea that we have a celebration. The Torah commanded us to celebrate the festivals. So you focus, you zoom in the celebration of festivals. When you mixing, you don't have, how do you say in the modern days, cannot mix two parties together, right? You have a party for one entity, you focus on that entity, lehavdil. So here we talk the celebration of the festival, and then when you had in the marriage, you're high in a different location, right? It's not in a festival. Ikar simcha chad yomau, leman de'amar tircha mishum tircha chad yomau. If you tell me that it's a big extra primary exertion, it apply only 1 day. So Rashi tells us that it's a 1 day. So since it's 1 day, it's the day of the marriage itself. But in a 7 days of the celebration, it's not so much tircha, it's not an extra exertion. Leman de'amar mishum bitul piyah uviyah, one said that the issue is neglect of the mitzvah of fruitful and multiply. Chad yom aloma she'inish nafshei. So people usually not postpone. So Rashi said, כלומר, כיוון שלא יכול להתחיל לה בערב הרגל, אין ממתין על הרגל. Usually people like to go by the time. People don't like, in the very short, because I wrote a lot, people don't like to postpone the opportunity. So now we go and zoom in to each and every source. Number one, ude'ein me'arvin simcha besimcha menalan. The principle that one may not mix the joy with another joy. Where you have it? Where is it from? So we go back to the time of the temple, the first Beit HaMikdash. King Solomon, what he was involved in the building, they said in the book of Kings, chapter 8. So it was a big inauguration of the building. And according to our sources, the book of Kings and others, that was the most nicest building ever built. So they said, ויעש שלמה בעת ההיא את החג, וכל ישראל עמו קהל גדול מלבוא חמת נאכל מצרים לפני השם אלוקינו 7 ימים ו7 ימים 14 יום. Huge celebration that our ancestors celebrated the inauguration 7 days preceding the festival of Sukkot. And then they celebrate Sukkot for 7 days. So you combine both, you have 14 days. Ve'im ita, and if you go enter to your mind מערבין שמחה בשמחה, היא באה למינתר עד החג. So if you tell me that it's okay to mix the joy, so Shlomo needs to wait, King Solomon needs to wait until he reach the festival of Sukkot, and then he will be able to do the inauguration of the house. Umevad shiv'a lehacha ulehacha. So the people go for the pilgrim festival and also the inauguration of the house of God. So the Tosfot said, "Kedei shelo yibatlu Yisrael mimlachtam kol kach." So the key is that you don't want to have people away from the work so long. If you read a little bit the history of our people in the anti-Semitism, the 18th, 19th century, nothing new. People think that in Europe today it's a news. It happened. So one of the claims, they said that they cannot schedule a walk with our people because always they have holidays, they have festivals, they have all kind of things, that it's not just a one day, it's sometimes extended over a period of time, etc. So v'dilma mintar lo natrina, so maybe you should not postpone the marriage up to the festival, the same way as King Solomon did not postpone the celebration of the inauguration until the festival of Sukkot. V'heicha itra me'avdina. So, however, in the situation that happened in the festival, you can mix together with the celebration of the festival. So how you can do that? So they said, Ibayle l'shayurei purta. So King Solomon should have left a small part of the Beit HaMikdash that it's not done until the time of the festival. So therefore you have a combination of two celebrations, and you have the festival of Sukkot, and they have the time that he dedicated the Beit HaMikdash. So the Gemara said, Shayurei Beit HaMikdash lo meshayrina. So Rashi explained that number one, it's appear like Ma'arim, that he tried to circumvent the system instead of doing it. Also another view that the Talmud Rabbeinu Yechiel in Paris, he said that it's not looks right in the eye of the people to postpone the completion of the building of Beit HaMikdash. It doesn't look right. So therefore, King Solomon cannot wait until the festival of Sukkot. So how do you have a proof that if you have some joy occasion in a festival, you cannot mix it with another one? So they said, so he should have left a cubit wide place with spikes, which designate to eliminate the raven unfinished. So it was at the top of the roof. The ravens goes there, not the Baltimore Ravens, right? The ravens in the temple, they are there, and it's not considering part of the building, and you can leave it unfinished. What's the idea? The idea, this Gemara in Erkin and others, they said that those ravens, either they brought other creeping animals, and they can create a ritual impurity, tum'ah. There is another way. They said that he just avoided those ravens from standing on the top of the roof. So since it's not part of the building, and you can leave it, so why King Solomon did not left that part until the festival of Sukkot, in order to celebrate it 2 days together? So you have a proof from here that even you have a Simchat HaRegel, the celebration of the festival, you don't mix it with another. You cannot mix a regular rejoicement with the festival, pilgrim. They rejoice of that. So the Gemara rejected that and said, Ama kalya orev tzorech binyanu. This eliminate the ravens was a necessary element in the building of Beit HaMikdash, and consequently King Solomon should not delay its construction. Tosfot in Tractate Shabbat, page 90, said that even in the first temple it was a Kali Orev. There's a school of thought that said that it was such a sanctity that it wasn't any raven on the top of the building. This is a school of thought. The others disagree. There's a Tosfot in Erkin, page 6. But the Gemara said, Ela midiatar kra, because you have an addition line that said, Michdertiv 14, Shivat Yamim veShivat Yamim Lamali. Why they said it twice, 7 and 7 days, proceeding to that line. Shmamina Hanelichud, the 7 days of the inauguration, it's independent, and Hanelichud, and the 7 days of the festival of Sukkot, and you don't mix the two together. The Yerushalmi brought the Tosfot, which the Tosfot said earlier in page 8b. He said, we all know the story in Genesis 29, when Laban cheated Jacob, he gave him Leah, and then Jacob complained, and Laban said, Maleh shvu azot, you walk 7 years for one daughter, you need to walk again for another 7 years, and then I give you my second daughter. So we derive from that, that's the Rambam in Chot Ishut, chapter 10, he said that you don't mix two rejoicement together. Anyway, Amar Rabbi Parnach, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So now we talk about the 7 days. As you know, sometimes in the Talmud, you go from one direction and you just have a conversation, so you continue in that manner. So Amar Rabbi Parnach, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Uta Shana, that year that King Solomon inaugurated the temple, Lo Asu Yisrael et Yom HaKippurim. Why? Because think together. They have the festival of Sukkot, and we said 7 days prior to Sukkot, there is a time of celebration. Now, if it's a time of celebration, meaning on Yom Kippur, which is how long? Before Sukkot? 5 days. So it means that it was the year that it was the exception that they celebrate on Sukkot, on the Yom Kippur. So they said, Vayu doagim v'omrim, they are concerned and said, Shema nitchayvu sodnehem shel Israel, it's a saginao, klaya. Maybe they deserve to get punished, to annihilate them. Yatztabat kol ve'amra lahem, a voice from heaven came, and that divine voice said, Kulchem mezumanin lechaya olam haba. All of you are designated in life in the next world. Maidarush, how they derive the idea that they're allowed to eat on Yom Kippur. Amru kal v'chomer. They learn from the something that was permitted. Ma mishkan shen kedushato kedushat olam. If you talk about tabernacle, that it's not a permanent forever, which means that only in the midbar, only in the desert, you have the issue of prohibition to have those bamot, those platforms. But if you look at the story of Gilgal, the temporary tabernacle, Nov and Givon, all of those places, they allow who true abamot. That's based in the Gemara in Tractate Zvachim, page 112. The Korban Yachid, Doche Shabbat, a single individual offering that the Nesi'im brought, it's override Shabbat. The Isur Skila, because it's much stringent in Shabbat, is a violation, one who violated Shabbat deserves Skila. Mikdash Kedushato, Kedushat Olam. Because the moment you build a permanent temple, then all the other places that they did an offering is prohibited forever, which that's one avenue. Another one said that the moment you build a temple, you cannot build elsewhere. That's the permanent spot of a building. And it's different than the tabernacle. Tabernacle, if it's destroyed, you can build it in a different location. That's the Tosfot in Tractate Moed, page 16b. So they said, the korban tzibur, and the public offering, that's the time of the inauguration of the temple. Solomon brought a public offering. That's a Book of Kings, chapter 8. So, Yom Kippurim, which is less than Shabbat, the anush karet, lo kol sheken, that the punishment for violation is only karet, that is only I meant is less than skila. How much so that inauguration should override the Day of Atonement. Ela amai hayu duagim. Why they afraid that they get punished for celebrating on Yom Kippur? He said, Hatam, over there in the tabernacle, they're offering tzorech gavoa. It's something that needs for the highest, which means for Hashem. And therefore, that offering overrides Shabbat. Hacha, in the inauguration of Beit HaMikdash, the feast was for the purpose tzorech hedyot, for the people. So, since you intend, Rabbeinu Hanan said, for the mitzvah, so you receive a reward to come. Achename, here also inauguration, me'ebad le'ebdu, they should do on Yom Kippur, the avodat ha-korbanot, the offering, me'ichal lo nechlu velo lishtu, but do not eat and drink on that day. So since that time the deeds was not for tzorech hedyot, for a person, so the en simcha belo achila v'shtiya. Here is a very Jewish trait. What is the real celebration? You have to have food. You have to have food, eat and drink, and then you have, that's very Jewish, right? So that's the idea of inauguration of the temple. It's an act of celebration. The Torah said in Deuteronomy 12, V'aya makom, this the place that the Lord your God chooses, Usmachtem lifnei Hashem Elokeichem, you should celebrate it before your Lord your God. So, if you look at the Mechaber and the code, the way that he completed the 6th volume, he brought the pasuk V'tov lev mishte tamid, that the rejoicing of the heart is the yain. It's if you have Sudat Mitzvah, if you have the completion of the tractate or some mitzvah feast, it's always involved with eating and drinking. Umimishkan the dache Shabbat menalan. How do you know that the korbanot nesiim, the offering of those head of tribes to the inauguration of the tabernacle override Shabbat? If you tell me the source is midechtiv, because they said in the book of Numbers, chapter 7, Bayom Arishon u Bayom Ashvi'i, which means they brought the offering what date? Shabbat. Dilma, maybe Shvi'i lekorbanot, the day that they brought the 7 offering. So if the president of the tribe brought the 6th one, brought his offering on Friday, the 7th one brought on Sunday, because that was the 7th day of the offering. How do you know that they offer on Shabbat? Amar Nachman bar Yitzchak, Amar Kra, because the Torah said in regards to 11th tribe's offering, Beyom Ashte Asar Yom. So we know that the Torah is very prudent in every letter and every word. So Ma Yom, so why we have the superfluous word of day? Ma Yom Kulo Ratzuf, which means 1 day without stop. Af Ashte Asar Kulam Ratzufim, which means that they offer also on Shabbat. V'dilma Yamim HaReuyim. Maybe those days that was good offering for individual, and Shabbat is not part of those days. So the Gemara said, Ktiv Kra Achrina, because they said, Beyom Shneim Asar Yom. The offering was sacrificed on the 11 consecutive days, and that were suitable for sacrificing the offering of an individual. And they said on the day of the 12 days, so this Ma Yom Kulo Ratzuf, same way as a day, it's all continuous period of time. Af Shnei Masar, the same way as the 12 days, Kulan Retzufin, they're all also continuous period of time. So the Gemara asks, V'dilma hachenam yamina reuyim. So maybe here too, the days that fit for sacrificing the offering for individual. So they said, in ken trei ka'elameli, why you need two pesukim? So you have to say that the second one teaches us that not only those days that it's befitting to have individual offering was consecutive, but all the days were consecutive, and consequently, you have to say that they offer also in Shabbat. Again, only in a Beit HaMikdash. Now, what Rabbi Yochanan said earlier, he said that that year that King Solomon inaugurated the Beit HaMikdash, they did not, in a sense of observant of Yom Kippurim, they did a celebration of Yom Kippurim. So now we need to know the source for that. Umikdash dedoche Yom Kippurim minalan. How do you know that in the time of the first temple, the celebration of inauguration of Beit HaMikdash is override Yom Kippur? If you tell me the source, is because it's written in the book of Kings, chapter 8, Arba'a Asar Yom. They said that King Solomon made at that time 7 days for the inauguration and 7 days for Sukkot, altogether 14 days. So it means that it was 5 days earlier than Sukkot, which is Yom Kippurim. It's also the time of celebration. V'dilma yamin hareuyim. Maybe it's not on Yom Kippur, only those days that befitting for celebration. So they said, Gamar Yom Mehatam. So they said that he have the verbal analogy between the word day mentioned in this concept and day that mentioned in the other. They said that all those days were retzufin, were consecutive. So it means, again, that Yom Kippur was also a day that they have a celebration. Now, Yatzta bat kol v'amra lahem. It's a heavenly voice came out and said to them, Kulchem mezubanim lechaya olam haba. All of you are designated to life in the world to come. So the Maharsha elaborates on that, and he said, what does that mean? You all have a world to come. Let's face it, not everyone celebrated the mitzvah. There are some people who are there just because they are hungry. Yet the beauty of this is, Maharsha said, that even not everyone was in an intent to celebrate the mitzvah. The merely fact that they are part of that, it's already considering part of the mitzvah and they deserve the afterlife. Uminayin de achilo. How do you know that the Almighty forgave them for eating on Yom Kippur? The Taneta Khalifa, because we learn in the Braita, it's written, Bayom Hashmini Shilach etam vayvarchu et hamelech. At the 8 days, he let people go, he sent them back, and they blessed the king. Vayilchu le'olehem smechim v'tovei lev. They went back to their tent, full of rejoicement. Al kol hatova asher asa Hashem leDavid avdo u'Yisrael amo. All the goodness that the Almighty did to King David and the nation Israel. So they said, le'olehem shalchu matzu nishaltem betara. If you remember yesterday, we said that Ohel is using of euphemism tent to the wives, which means they went back and the wife are available. They are pure, ritually pure. שמחים שנהנו מזיו השכינה. They are full of rejoicement because they enjoy the divine providence, because they said, the Maharsha said, Sova smachot et panecha. The key point is Simchu Ba'Hashem, that you're celebrating by seeing in our sense the divine providence. V'tovei lev, and the rejoice of the heart, shekol echad ve'echad nitabra ishto beven zachar, that each one of them have a baby boy. The Torah said in regards to Moses in the book of Shmot, Exodus chapter 2, Vatere oto kitov hu. So the word kitov, tov applied to baby boy. על כל הטובה שעשתה בת קול ואמרה להם, כולכם מזומנים לחיי עולם הבא. All the goods, is the voice said that you all will have a share in the world to come. לדוד עבדו לישראל עמו, בישלם על ישראל עמו דאכילהו. That God forgive them of what? עוון ביום כיפורים. That the iniquities of eating and drinking on Yom Kippur. אל דוד עבדו מהי? What kind of King David? אמר רבי יהודה אמר רב בשעה שביקש שלמה להכניס אהרון למקדש. That's a well-known Gemara in Tractate Moed פרק חלק, page 107. You should read that Gemara. We don't have the time, but it's all the talk, what happened between the King Solomon when it was a huge special moment in the Jewish history when he inaugurated the temple. He was involved with the doors. So when he's about to bring the Ark of Covenant to the Holy of Holies, the doors of the Holy of Holies attached to each other, and he could not open them in order to let the Ark of Covenant get in. אמר שלמה 24 רננות. King Solomon said 24 prayers. ולא נענה. And he didn't answer. פתח ואמר שאו שרים ראשיכם ולא נענה. So he said, open the doors, all gates, and he didn't answer. So if you read that, the Gemara said that the gates, and again we need to understand, it's start chasing him. How dare you said Melech HaKavod, how you call yourself the glory, the king of honors. But for sure we understand later that it's not the meaning, it is applied to Hashem. Anyway, Velo Nana, didn't open. Kevan Shamar, since he used the book of Chronicles, it's written in the book of Chronicles, the chapter 6, Hashem Elokim al Hashem Bnei Meshachar Zachar Chasdei David Avdecha, Almighty God will not return back your face from the Messiah, which means remember all the merits of my father David. Miyad Nana, and right away the gates open. So in other words, he used the merit of his father, King David. So that time all those people who opposed David, Shimei Gera and others that strongly oppose King David's kingdom, that's Gemara in Shabbat, page 30. So they are embarrassed. Why? So everyone knows that God forgave him for that sin. So it's a big discussion if it was or not. The story of David and Bathsheba, which I'm sure you are familiar with, Uriah, etc. So the key is that even nowadays you see it. You go to a chaplain and you leave a get for your wife when you go on a mission. So in case you don't return, she's not stuck. Especially if she's capable to have children, right? So she's not stuck in marriage while you are not, it's unknown if it's a missing in action, right? So here, King David, why do you need to wait to that moment? The truth is, King David wants, when Nathan told him that God wants to build the temple, he's ready yesterday to build it. But then God said, wait a second, your hands is full of blood, you can't do that. You can't build a house of worship. Your son that live in peace and serenity can do it. So therefore, the enemies of David said, no, God not let him do that because of the sin with Bathsheba, right? The mistake. So therefore, God chooses this very special high spiritual moment, which is the inauguration of the house, to enter the Ark of Covenant to a Holy of Holies, to tell everything, it's all because of merit, of the privilege, zchut of David. That's what we said every day. Mizmor Shir Chanukat Habayit LeDavid. Psalm of celebration to inauguration of the house for King David. It's all because of him. And it's a proof that God forgave him for that mistake. Rabbi Yonatan ben Asmai ורבי יהודה ben Geirim, because he's descendants of convert. Tanu parashat nedarim ברבי שמעון ben Yachai. Ipatru minei b'oraita. They ask him to leave at night. So that's another thing that we learned, that they ask for permission. Tzafra ardu v'kam ipatru minei. So then they came again the following day and they asked for. אמר לו רבי שמעון ben Yachai, said to them, ולאו ipatru minei b'oraita. You say goodbye yesterday. Why you come back and ask permission? אמרו לי, לימדנו רבנו, תלמיד נפטר רבו ולן באותה העיר. צריך לפנינו פעם אחרת. If you said goodbye and you're still in the city, you need to come again. שנאמר ביום השמיני שלחתם וברכו את המלך. He said in King Solomon chapter 8, in the book of Kings, that the 8 days of Sukkot, which is 22 days of the month of Tishrei, King Solomon gave them a permission to go. וכתיב ביום 23 לחודש השביעי, which is the following day, שילח את העם. So it means, why do you need to do it twice? אלא מכאן לתמיד הנפטר מרבו ולעם באותה העיר צריך לפתור פעם אחרת. need to do it twice. אמרו ללברי בני האדם הללו, which is רבי יונתן בן אסמאי ורבי יהודה בן גרים, אנשים של צורה. So Rashi used the word כלומר, I'll just give you the short abbreviation. They said כלומר חכמים. What does that mean? So we said in the Tractate Moed, page 16, that it's not the size of the person, it's the wisdom, קומה. זילגה בעונדי לברכוך, go to them and they give you a blessing. אז על השכחינו דקרא מוקרא מהדדי. He saw that when he approached them that they have a Talmudic discussion and they show two contradicted statements. כתיב פלס מעגל רגליך וכל דרכיך ייכונו. So it means, כלומר שכל מצוות ועיין בהם, איזו מצווה גדולה ואיזו מצווה גדולה ועשה הגדולה. So Vadia Yosef, may rest in peace, explained in Shut Yabia Omer Yoredea Chelek Dalet Siman Yuntet. He elaborated on that and he said that when it's come to mitzvah, so a person needs to make up his mind which mitzvah to choose. If you have two, should go by the greatest. So one school of thought is when it's come to Torah, that's number one before anything else. But sometimes you have to choose because they said uchtiv orach chaim pen tefales. So it means you should not leave the small quote mitzvah for the large mitzvah. So lokasha kan b'mitzvah shefshar ustar l'yedei acherim. Here you talk about mitzvah that somebody else can do it. So it means if you have a choice between doing a mitzvah now or a mitzvah that someone else can do it, and therefore you should continue to do a mitzvah here. So therefore you should do the greatest mitzvah and you leave for somebody else to do the second one. 9b, kan b'mitzvah she'ifshar לעשותה על ידי אחרים. But the other one is applied to mitzvah that cannot be done by others. So one must not consider its relative importance, but rather to do it right away, immediately. So you should do right away what you are supposed to. Chacham Tzvi explained, thank you, in the Tshuva, Kuf Vav, he brought the Radvaz, and the Chacham Tzvi asked a question. If someone, for example, is in a jail, God forbid, and they give him a chance to go out for 1 day. 1 day, what should we do? If he was not able to put a filling, should he put a filling right away? Or he should wait for a special occasion like the Eve of Pesach, Yom Kippur, etc. If proof from here, you have a chance to do mitzvah now, do it now right away. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. That's the Chacham Tzvi. Anyway, Hadar yatveh v'kaba elu, ktiv yikarai mipnim v'chol chafetzecha lo yishvu. They said in the book of Mishlei, Proverbs chapter 3, that Torah is like better than pearls. So, ha cheftzei shamayim yishvu ba. וכתיב וכל חפצים לא ישבו בה, דאפתילו חפצי שמיים לא ישבו בה. So Rashi said, כלומר, שאם יש לך לעשות מצווה, אתה בטל בתורה ועשות מצווה. It's appear like if you have a choice to do mitzvah or continue study, you should do the mitzvah. So it's a kan mitzvah she'efshar לעשות עליכם, kan mitzvah she'efshar לעשות עליכם. You have to differentiate between something that someone else can do it and then you can focus, continue to focus or study Torah, etc. Or sometimes you have no choice, you have to close the book and do the mitzvah because otherwise no one else can do it. אמרו למאי בית אחי, what are you asking? אמר לי אבא זיל גברו לברכוך. My dad told me he should come over and should give me a bracha, a blessing. אמרו לי, רבא תזרע ולא תחצה, תאייל ולא תיפוק, תיפוק ולא תאייל. It looks like a weird blessing. It says, may it will be that you planted, you should not collect, you plant of the seed, you should bring and come in and not come out. And it looks like unpleasant business blessings. It's like you need to return to your father, or you put money in the merchandise and not return. So soon you see the explanation. Lechu beitcha veletuv ushpizach. So your house will demolish, and you should לבלבל פתוח ולא תחזה שאתה חלת. So you have a mix of the table, and you should not see the new year. So the reason all of that happened is because they want him to go back to his father to give a full explanation, and by doing that, so he also, the father is giving him, also repeats the blessing that they are giving him. It's not enough they didn't give me blessings, but these sages, they even caused me sorrow. Asked, what did they say? So his son said, so and so, Amruli. That's what they told me. Come on. Whatever they said, it's a blessing. Let me explain to you. Tizra velo techsad, tolid banim velo yamutu, which means you have children, God forbid, it should not pass, you should have them. Which means that you passed away before them, which is the usual manner of the world. Because how good is it in a sense that you have children and they pass before you passed, God forbid, right? תאייל ולא תיפוק, תאייל כלתה ולא ימות בנה, תאייל כלתה. So we learn that, if you remember, the idea of a person built for his children, beit chatnut, a house. So you see it in the story of Isaac, the story of Jacob. They brought the newly wife to the husband's house. So that's the way they did it, particularly in those days. Rashi explained that the usual manner of woman is that she goes to the house of the husband, which means the place that they... So, which means that Maharsha said it's an addition that your children get married, they will not get divorced, which means that they have a happy marriage. תיפול ולא תאייל, תוליד בנתה ולא ימותו גוברי ולילדו לבטיח, which means that your daughters will not return here to your house. Unfortunately, it happened when his divorce involved, right? Or the widows, they need to go back to their father's house. So that was the blessing. Lechu betach v'levud ushpinznach. So your house will be demolished. So he explained the ha'ulma ushpizach. Ve'ayalma beitach. So this world is your temporarily dwelling place, but the permanent place, which is the grave, is your place. Dechtiv, they said in Psalm 49, Kirbam batem le'olam, al tikri kirbam ela kivram. It's a story about the Chafetz Chaim. We mention his name constantly. You know, the author of the Mishnah Berurah was a giant scholar, and he wrote a lot against evil gossip, against speaking Lashon Hara. You know, it's in numerous books. So the story is that one wealthy person came to Chafetz Chaim, and he said to him, he was just turning 90, the Chafetz Chaim turned 90. You hear Dr. Friedman? So they said, Chafetz Chaim told him, I reached that age, but it's not only that age. Said, the wealthy person said, what is the secret? He said, he opened his mouth and he saw the teeth, all fresh, look like, in our languages, it doesn't need the dentists. Mm-hmm. So the Chafetz Chaim is a famous statement. He said, all my life I struggle not to speak or not to hear Lashon Hara. So that's the secret why I have all my teeth in the age of 90. Famous statement. Then the rich man said, I can't believe that. I travel from far away to the Chafetz Chaim, everyone knows about you, and all of a sudden I look around your apartment, your place of dwelling, everything is falling apart, it looks very poor. And you are very famous, Chafetz Chaim, how come? So the Chafetz Chaim answered and he said to him, he said, well, where is your table? Where are your chairs? So the rich man said, what do you mean? If you come to my palace, to my mansion, you see a lot of beautiful furniture and a beautiful place. So the Chafetz Chaim said, why you don't bring it with you? So you can enjoy it and we can see it. He says, what are you talking about? I have here only a little suitcase because I'm traveling with my wagon and horses from places, right? And that's not my permanent place. My permanent place is my big mansion. You're welcome to come and see it. So the Chafetz Chaim answered and said, that's exactly my story. You see this place is falling apart because this is my permanent place. My temporary place, I'm sorry. The permanent place is the Olam Haba, which is, in our discussion, is the grave. And as long as you're around, grab the good deeds and study Torah, that's the only angels that escort you for the world to come. Nothing else all the materialistic world will not stay with you. Anyway, libalbel peturach bivnei ubebetach, which means that you have many children that make a lot of noise and do a lot of things around the table. Which means that you don't have a situation that you lose your spouse, and then you need to go back to the idea of the first year. The first year is the Torah commanded us in Deuteronomy 24. The person should be free to make his wife happy at the first year after they got married. So the Maharsha asked a question, why do they need to go to all this system and not say straight? So bless him right away. So he gave two explanations. One, he said, he used the idea that he understood that they bless him, but si'aro, meaning that he could not comprehend, that's the sorrow. But the second, which looked very interesting, he said they want his father to repeat that and give him the blessings. So it's not just they bless him, he get in a way 2 times blessings also from his father. רבי שמעון בן חלפתא יפטר מן ידי רב, אמר ללברי זיל גבה דלברכך, אמר לי רב לא תבייש ולא תתבייש, which means you should not embarrass others and they should not embarrass you. So there's a few explanations the Maharsha elaborate. Anyway, Ata gabe avua, he went to his father, אמר לי מה אמר לך? What did he say? אמר לו מילין בעלמא הוא אמר לי. He just said words. In Russian you said raz gavora, tolka raz gavora. Which means like just said words to me. אמר לי בירכך ברכתה דברכן קודש בריחו לישראל ותנא בי. He gave you a great blessing that the Almighty gave the nation of Israel, and he repeats it. They said in the book of Yoel, book of Joel, chapter 2, ואכלתם אכול ושבוע והיללתם את שם השם אלוקיכם, ולא יבושו ימי לעולם וילתם כי בקרב ישראל עני ולא יבושו ימי לעולם. So that's what we said Motzei Shabbat, the big blessings. So it means that the embarrassment will not go both ways. So the Mishnah said, ועושה אישה תכשיטיה. The woman allowed to do all the cosmetic needs on the intermediary days. What exactly you allowed to do it? So it's not just intermediary days, but also on the festival itself. So it means that all the usual treatment. Festival itself is we have to understand what's involved in exact manner. In intermediary days, it's not even a question. So all this beautification, which means the cosmetic treatment, paint her eyelids, remove unwanted hair, and she may put on her face. So it means that also, especially in those days, they used to have a comb over her lower face, the hair from the public area. So she used to do it, the wife of Rav Chizda, adorn herself on those intermediary days in the presence of her daughter-in-law, which when she was already had married son, יתיב רבונה ברכינה כמד רב חיסדא ויתיב כמר לא שנו לה ילדה, אבל זקנה לא. Because, so it means that she's not like a little one. אמר לי, האלוהים אפילו עמך ואפילו עמד עמך ואפילו שעומדת על קברה, ואמרי שבת שין כבת שית לקלתיו לרעתה. So it means that it's not a matter of age, it's a matter of beauty, and therefore even she's not married, she allowed to beautify herself. And that's, by the way, the Or HaChaim and Tafkuf Memvav, the Pri Megadim, explained that that's applies to all different ages for the ladies. Rabbi Dr. Omer lo tasud. Rabbi Dr. said that she should not apply to lime, to her skin, because it's render her temporarily unattractive and she will be distressed during the festival. That's one way. But there are a few other explanations. Tanya Rabbi Dr. Omer isha lo tasud mipnei shenivulu la. That it's caused sorrow, especially in the ancient time. It's a burning skin and creates sometimes pain. ומודה רבי יהודה בסיד, משום שיכולה לקפלו במועד ושתופלתו במועד, אף על פי שמצירה היא עכשיו שמחה לאחר זמן. So even at this very moment she feels bad, meaning that it's painful or whatever, later on she's happy because it makes her beauty. So it's a few explanations, I'll just give you the main idea. ומית לרבי יהודה סברה באתנן, learn in the Mishnah in Tractate עבודה זרה, page 2, רבי יהודה אומר נפרעים מהם מפני שמצר, אמרו לו אף על פי שמצר עכשיו ושמח לאחר זמן. So it means that we should not think about the future, just the present time. Because when he eats later during the festival, he's happy. So even now it's unpleasant. So now she put all these cosmetic things. Since she's happy later, it's okay. Another option, Ravina Amar Kuti linyan piron lo'olam meitzer. You have to differentiate between idolater. To our cases, two different things. Because over there it speaks about the days that they have their idol worship, and you cannot compare. Which means that they reach the age of the adulthood, which is the 2 hair. They didn't reach the 12. So we learned it already once, and the whole idea, it's for example, Tractate Pesachim, page 43. It's the idea that it's dependent on the financial status, what materials they use. Mai Shemen Amor, Ravuna Bar Yechia Amar Setach Achat, Rav Rima Bar Adi Amar Shemen Zayit Shelo Yavi Shlish, which means that olive oil that not reach 1/3. Tanya Rabbi Dr. the oil is unpiknon. Shemen Zayit Shelo Yavi Shlish. Ve'lama Sachin Oto Shemishir L'Sar U'Madin Tov Asar. You see how the sages are smart. They know even cosmetic materials, what they use and what is better, and not only the prices but also the quality. Rav Bibi Aral Barta, his daughter, Tafla Ever Ever, which means that they use each and every part of her body slowly, so it makes her even more beauty, because it was each part. Shakalba Arba Me'azuzei. So the one who wants to marry her gave 400 zuz, which was a large sum of money, to her father. Haba kuti b'shiva vutei. It was an idolater that lived there. So he tried to do to his daughter the same, and she passed. Amar katla baby levrati. So this baby killed my daughter. Amar Rav Nachman Rav Bibi desha deshicha, that he get used to drink wine. Be'ayan bnatei tafla. So they need to do it because drinking, it softened the skin. Anan de lo shatina shira, but we are not involved with alcohol. Lo be'ayan bnatei tafla. So you don't have the issue, although they're not required that they be smeared with lime, as they have little hair, even without treatment. First halakha is Nesiat Isha ben Moed, the Shulchan Aruch Or HaChaim 546. One may not marry on the intermediary days of a festival, regardless of whether the woman is a virgin or a widow. Levirate marriage may also not be performed on the intermediary days of a festival. However, one is permitted to remarry a woman whom he had previously married and divorced. In this case, Some are stringent and do not permit preparing a wedding feast. That's the Bet Yosef. The Shulchan Aruch also in Even HaEzer in 64 said that engagement and betrothal are permitted on the intermediate day of festival, as long as one does not prepare a feast to celebrate the occasion. Nisuin be'erev haregel. It is permitted to marry a woman on the eve of a festival, preferably in the morning, that's the Mishnah Brura, and to hold the wedding feast on a festival itself. However, the Magen Avraham writes that it's customary not to have weddings on the eve of festival. During the study, we also discussed the Talmid Sheniftar Merabo. If a disciple takes leave of his teacher and then spend the night in the same city, he must take leave from him again the next day. This applies only if he did not inform his teacher that he will spend the night in the city. However, if he told this to him when he took leave of him the first time, he did not take leave of him again. That's Shulchan Aruch Yoredea 242. And the yeshiva world, we see it a lot. The point of students have a time to leave. It's a derech eretz, is the proper midot, proper trait, to go to the Rav and inform him and in a way ask him for permission. Osa isha tachshitea. The Vilna Gaon elaborate on the code on 546. A woman, even if she is unmarried, the Pri Megadim said, is permitted to engage in all of her usual cosmetic treatments on the intermediary days of a festival. She may paint her eyelids, remove unwanted hair, and apply rough to her face. She may also apply lime to her skin for beautification purposes, provided that she can peel it off during the festival. That's basically follow the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Some disagree and say that this is permitted even if she cannot remove it during the festival. That's basically the Rabbi Yitzchak ibn Giyat and the Ritva. But the Vilna Gaon said that she may also remove hair from her armpits and the public area by hand or with an instrument. However, she may not get a haircut, just as it's prohibited for a man to get a haircut during those special intermediary days. We talk about Mischar Lifnei Yedei Nochrim. That's a special days, especially in Talmudic times, there's the days that the idol worshippers celebrated. So there, the Shulchan Aruch and Yoredea 146 go to details that on these 3 days preceding the 3 days of idol worshippers, so we cannot borrow money and lend money or collect the debt, etc. But we're allowed to collect a debt from which is no documentation, as considered like rescuing money that will otherwise be lost. Again, more on that is the Shulchan Aruch Yoredea in 148.
Boyachem leshuloim malachai yeshuloim malachai